45 seconds to finish up your responses. Then I'm going to give you a whole minute and a half to really break through what he's getting at. Good. Right, Eli? Good answer. All right, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. I want you to take a minute and a half with the person next to you to really try to dive into this whole why are they there, and then what actions will they take once they're there. That connection between motivation and action. Time's ticking, but take time in your little duo to break down what it is they're doing and why, and then what is their end game. Go.
We didn't understand the question.
It's right there. Why are they there? And then what are they going to do to accomplish the goals for why they're there? Keep chewing. What are they trying to do?
Second one, I said that the work is legal in Massachusetts doesn't affect the people negatively. And the purpose for the community is to serve the Lord more, be better than the corrupted man, and work out your salvation.
What does he expect? No, it's not. This text is not complex. You're fine. It's not a complex text. What they share. In a sense, yeah. So the government's going to be two things: civil and ecclesiastical. I don't know. Let's talk about it for them. Civil cohabitation, to live together. Ecclesiastical means it's a biblical term for the holy in a sense, it's creating government. Civil means like politics, right? And also religion. Does it work that way? I don't know. All right, you can get your head back up here for me, please. I know it's a chewy text. I'm aware. That's how it's supposed to be. But what is Winthrop trying to do with society? What are his goals? Go ahead. Take it away, Luis. This better be a good response, I swear to God.
After to save themselves under prosperity from the corruptions of the world, to find an area which goes by a form of government, and to have a bond of love while serving the Lord.
Okay, to form a bond. Community, us, we, together to serve the Lord. That we is important. Cool, Ruby, build on that. What else is he talking about from a goals perspective? What are they trying to do with society?
Well, beyond being unified, I guess it's also trying to spread their Christian faith.
Okay.
Improve that.
Okay. Agreed. Rubia, build.
Like what he expects from people.
Yeah, and then what are they going to do to get to reach these goals he has laid out?
So pretty much, I feel that he expects the people to pretty much just keep on worshiping God and to like remain, I guess, pure from all the evil of the world.
Okay, I dig that.
So I feel like a way that he intends to reach these goals is by having a set of moral rules that people have to follow.
Okay.
So okay, go to work So, you know, you're serving God, or do this, do that, go to church, pray, to keep yourself pure, to worship God.
Certainly. Well done. There's a fantastic line in the last paragraph. Brett, go for it.
He also, like, in the last paragraph, he's talking about how basically he's trying to establish like form camaraderie between all of the citizens, because he wants them to better their lives as Christian people.
We must bear one another's burdens. I'm going to struggle for Brett. Brett's going to struggle for me. We are in this together. We will become successful in part 3, excuse me. We're going to improve our lives. Why? So we can be of more service to God. We're not going to improve our lives for our own benefit. I'm not going to become successful for me. We as a community will become successful so that we can further God's work going forward. Whereas, as Brett pointed out earlier, what's the real motivation in Jamestown and Chesapeake in the South? It's not we, it's me. Yeah. It's not we, it's me. It's a nice, cool differentiation for you. But I'm going to argue with you that it all comes off of why it is they went there. There's value in really digging down to that perspective I keep hammering into your heads. Why you go somewhere impacts what it is you do when you go there. Alright? Like I told you guys on Thursday, I don't go to the gym to eat cheeseburgers.
Why not?
I go to the gym so I can eat cheeseburgers later.
I like that.
Right? Why you go somewhere impacts what it is you do when you get there. Excellent. Now turn your page. This is where it all comes hammering home. And this is his big famous conclusion about the community they're going to build, and the real big important thing, why is it so important, according to Winthrop, to build a city on a hill? We had a nice chat in first period about whether that was a simile or a metaphor. I'm going to let Salvador tackle all that literary device nonsense. That's not for me. I'm going to call it a semaphore. All right? We'll call it a semaphore. But that's an important simile metaphor, that we're going to build a city on a hill. He's going to hammer that home for you. I'm going to give you 4 minutes only, so read it quick. Now you kind of get the big ideas. Get to his point. 4 minutes. Answer those 2 questions. We'll break that on the board. 4 minutes, go. You know, but you asked to work. Read. It's a quick window. What is the city on the hill? Why is it so important? Text. I just put my thumbs on here. 30 seconds. What is this city on a hill and why? Why is it so important to Winthrop? Got it. All right, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, I'm going to give you the same minute with the person next to you, but I really want you to focus your discussion on this idea of a city on a hill. What is it? Why is it? How is it? So what? 1 minute. Go.
So I guess he wants to be like an example to everyone so that they can like building a deep person of God, like God and so that they can join the things like all together.
Professor said he wants to go to community and should make
20 seconds.
And all the people in the colonies already have people in England, they got maybe drag them over to stay.
It's your turn to explain.
City on the hill.
3, 2, and 1. I'm going to start with today. Talk to us. What is the city on a hill? What's it trying to create?
Well, I think.
Is it actually on a hill?
No.
I mean, it might be. We don't know. Yeah, but it doesn't have to be. Okay, carry on. Thank you.
Anyway, I think that he's like saying he wants to be like the model city.
Okay.
Like who's closest to God or the Lord.
Okay. So he wants to be the model, the perfect city, the perfect community
For the Lord.
for the Lord. Okay, in God's eyes. Okay, I dig with that. Please. Thank you, Catherine. Build on that.
I kind of saw it like when you're on top of the hill, you're at your peak, so most successful.
Okay, agreed that you are in an exalted position. I dig that. I dig that. What's that? You got me? Let's hear it. Nice and loud so everybody can hear it.
Me and Brett were discussing, and
That was your first mistake, discussing with Brett. But carry on.
we were saying that if you're on the top of a hill, if this community were to be on top of a hill, they would see themselves as superior to everyone else and be the best of the best, but also they would be closer to God since they're higher up.
Okay, I see where we're going with this. I do. Caesar. What else? Because we're kind of all dancing around it. Nobody's wrong. Nobody's hit the bullseye yet, though.
To build a city on a hill is basically to form a community in which there's a lot of unity
Okay,
in between people.
agreed. Hilda, thank you.
One of the lines he said, the eyes of all people are upon us.
Oh.
So he's basically trying to say how like, he wants to be like a role model to everyone so that they can as well like be put together by God and like join them.
That they want to be a role model, right? If you're in a flat area and there's one hill, where are your eyes always at? On the hill. And they're going to put themselves in a place as a role model for the rest of the world. For what a good, God-fearing, religious-based society looks like. We're not done yet. Why? Go.
That he said that if possibly fail, God will stop helping them.
Okay, good. Agreed. Why else? Rui.
That's another way of spreading their faith and spreading their religion.
Okay, agreed. Why else?
Pleasing God.
Okay, good. Why else?
He says that we shall open the mouth and we speak evil the way to God and all professors for God's sake.
Yeah?
So that means like basically that he wants to have like any opponents or something, like still be envious of them and like show them why God's will is like, or how God's will is producing such like a magnificent city.
Good. Why else? You're all right.
Attracts everyone.
Sure. Why'd they leave?
From England.
Yeah.
So that they could actually build a good society.
Why'd they leave?
For us to work.
Why'd they leave? Why'd they leave?
Because the Church of England was broke.
Because the Church of England was corrupt. Because they said we can do it better. So if they go and they don't do it better, then they're just hypocrites. Then they're no better than what they left. Why you go somewhere fully impacts what it is when you get there. What does he do when you get there? They left to make a point that the Church of England was not perfect, that it needed fixing, that it needed purifying. So if they, on the back end of things, don't follow through with that purification, then they've accomplished nothing. So that's why they're going to be so diligent and so mutually watchful and so strict and so tight, because that's the point they were trying to prove when they left in the first place. Yes, ma'am.
Alright, so if they're, remember, I wasn't here for most of the lesson. So if they're
So you're that kid that shows up late and then asks questions?
Yes, of
I like
course.
that.
Thank
Nice.
you. So if they're supposed to have a sense of unity, why are they separating themselves as the city, the exemplar city? Like for
Because
me,
there's nobody else there. It's just them.
oh, it's just them.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
there we
It's
go.
just that Massachusetts Bay community.
Okay, got it.
So this really has to hammer home my point that this is not about religious freedom. That's a false statement that is in superficial histories. They came for religious freedom. Absolutely not.
They just came to prove a point.
They came for religious perfection,
To fix everything.
in theory. So as we see that great migration, the thousands of people that are settling in New England, I gave you some big picture characteristics for the southern colonies on Thursday. For New England, the numbers tell a different story. This is a much healthier community. Much lower mortality rates. Remember I told you in Jamestown people are dying, the Virginia colony people are dying, indentured servitude people are dying, everybody's dying. In New England it's different. The average life expectancy is over 70 years old. 400 years ago people were living to 70. That's insane. That's longer than life expectancy in Europe. It's double the life expectancy in some southern colonies. People are very, very, very healthy. It is said by some that the New England colonies invented grandparents. Seriously. The New England colonies invented grandparents. Because nowhere else in the world were people living long enough to see their kids have kids. The New England colonies invented grandparents. There's a ton of extended families, right? Aunts, uncles, cousins, grandma, grandpa. The average family is having 6 kids. So they're a very self-sustaining population. And they're getting married even at a later age than the rest of the world. Women are getting married at 22, when in general women are getting married in their teens elsewhere in the world, and men are getting married at 27 years old. Which is obviously different than what we saw with Virginia, where it's a 6-to-1 dude to chicks ratio. It's hard to even get married in the first place. People are dying at a young age. Women are getting married at 14 and 15 because there's just not a lot of them. So in general, because of this idea, I'm going to argue that this is all because of the idea of we and our and us and community and common good and benefit of the people, that they're building communities. And people, when they're surrounded by community, live longer. When you're down in the South and it's every man for himself, me, not we, nobody's looking out for you, you hit struggle and then you're dead. So despite this unity, we do see 2 really clear examples of rebellion that you read about in your secondary analysis this weekend that I'm going to talk about for just a minute here, that prove my point that it's not about religious freedom. The first is Roger Williams. Look at his hair. He looks kind of like Hector. They're both very, very beautiful men. Cheers to Hector over here. He's a very popular minister in Salem, Massachusetts. So still in Massachusetts Bay. And he's kind of breaking up the Puritan idea and saying we shouldn't even be trying to purify the Church of England. We need a full break. He's more separatist. That we need to have our own set church. The Church of England is too corrupt. It's not going to work for us. And that's not his most offensive argument. Some of the other things he's going to say is going to make people more upset. He's going to argue that Massachusetts Bay's charter, their existence, their permission, is faulty from the very beginning for a couple reasons. The main reason is it did not purchase the land from the Native Americans. He's going to argue, according to God's law, you can't take what's not yours. And you need to pay for things, otherwise it's theft. We didn't pay these natives for this land, so we're already living in violation of God's law by simply being here without permission from the Native Americans. Decent argument. Yes, sir?
Yeah, but everyone else did too.
Okay, cool. But they're a city on a hill. Yeah, everybody else did too, but everybody else isn't trying to live up to these lofty ideals of a perfect society. Great point, though.
What do you say?
That everybody else did too. Like, sure. But he's going to argue that it doesn't matter if everybody else did. We're already in violation. We're trying to be the perfect religion. We're already in violation of God's law by taking this land. Did they take the land? Yes. Did they pay the Native Americans? No. So he's going to argue that by our very being here, we've already violated God's law. But his more offensive argument to the authorities in Massachusetts was that the church, or excuse me, a civil government, a political body, a legislative body, any political organization should have no business regulating somebody's religious affairs. We run that back. Any political ruling group, whatever it is, a legislature, a parliament, whatever, a Congress, that if it's a political body, it should have nothing to do with what people do religiously. Any responses to that? Thoughts? Agree? Disagree? Agree why? Louder.
They're like two completely different topics that shouldn't be put together.
I agree with you. I agree. Jairo, what do you think? Should our political body regulate what we do religiously? Why not?
Because it's like the separation of church and state.
Agreed. Keep going.
So, like, once they get involved, it's no longer more religious. It's more like you're being forced to do this.
You're being regulated to do something you shouldn't be forced to do.
Yeah.
Agree with that. Alondra, please. I like your waving hand. That makes me happy. Go.
The church causes bias.
The church causes bias. Okay. Why? How? What does that have to do with our religious and our political actions?
Well, people put the church ahead of everything, so like people try to make laws and they're like, oh no, the church says you can't do that.
Ah.
So that could cause a lot of bias.
So when we look at Winthrop City on a Hill, he says we're going to create a civic and an ecclesiastical government that's going to regulate all parts of our life together. Basically, in a sense, he's boiling it down to one group. The church leaders are going to regulate our legal actions and our religious actions. And like Jahaira just said, that violates the very idea of separation of church and state. Thomas Jefferson later is going to fall back on Roger Williams' perspectives on church and state in some of his writings that we'll look at in a couple weeks. His statute on religious freedom in Virginia, and argue that yes, no political body has any business regulating what you do religiously. It's a compelling argument. But does this make him very popular with Massachusetts?
No.
No. Why not? Yes, he got kicked out. In 1635, he's found guilty of preaching new and dangerous ideas. And he's exiled. He's booted. So much for freedom of religion, huh? He is sent to Rhode Island, my favorite place in the colonies. If I had to pick somewhere to live, I would live there, because it's where all the people got kicked out to go, right? It's like hell. All your friends will be there. Right? 1636, Roger Williams is sent there. Some wanted to send him to England instead of Rhode Island because they didn't want to have a competing colony to attract people. Because they knew he was a powerful speaker, people liked him. So they sent him to Rhode Island, which is, if you look up the map, just due south of Massachusetts. And of course, in Rhode Island, we're going to see a ton of political freedom. Why? Because why he went there is going to impact what he does when he gets there. He went there because he got kicked out for expressing unpopular opinions. So when he gets there, he's going to be like, hey, let's make room for unpopular opinions. See my point? All the dominoes fall in line when you get your head around that perspective. In Rhode Island, for the first time in the world, we see universal male suffrage. If you're a dude, you can vote. No property requirement. More important for the region, no membership in the church requirement. If you're a dude, you can vote. Later, they're going to walk that back and add a property requirement, but a very limited one. Rhode Island's going to be very opposed to any special privilege. There's no privileged class. Everybody has freedom of opportunity. And my favorite part about Rhode Island is to the rest of New England, the region, it becomes known as the sewer. Because it's where everybody gets kicked out to go. Right? It's all the bottom of society. Like I said, that's where I would be. Because it's seen by the Puritans as a dumping ground for people that are non-believers, religious dissenters. But because of that, it's the most liberal of all the colonies. Because everybody that's there got kicked out for doing something wrong. Right? So it's really fun. It's like hell or continuation school. So, it's always going to be a good time. The second example is Anne Hutchinson. Same exact scenario. She is an intelligent, strong-willed, well-spoken woman. This is just me on a soapbox for a second. Nothing in a male-dominated society shakes things up like an intelligent, well-spoken, well-driven woman. Any male-dominated society is always fearful of this. It's true. It's like any white-dominated society is always fearful of this, but where it says minority instead. It's an important thing to get our mind around, that because Massachusetts is so male-dominated, an intelligent, well-spoken, well-driven woman is going to kind of shatter their norms of men being in control. All right? Ladies, when you grow up, be this. I don't care what you do. I don't care how you do it. I don't care where you go to school or what career you choose, but be intelligent, be strong-willed, and be well-spoken. Deal? You scared, Noe? No, you should be. I married an intelligent, strong-willed, and well-spoken woman. I did. It's the best thing ever. My work wife is also an intelligent, strong-willed, and well-spoken woman. So, what this does is it threatens patriarchal control. It threatens male-dominated society. And she does it by saying, like, why do I need to go to the church leaders to find out what God said? I talk to God myself. And everyone's like, whoa, 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 whoa. Pump the brakes, Anne. You are a woman. God will not be speaking to you directly. Take your ass to church like everybody else and hear it from the preacher. Exactly. But by her saying, like, we don't need our structured, male-dominated clergy to tell us what God has to say. If this is really a religious society, why can't we figure it out ourselves? Yes?
They have no Bible back then?
The Bible was written in the 1800s.
Oh,
I'm kidding. No. Yeah, they have the Bible.
So why didn't they just read it?
They could read it. We'll get into that with the first grade away. All right. Moral. Everyone does that at the end of everything. Moral of the story, she threatens patriarchal control by being a woman who wants to do things her own way. She breaks the law by talking to God herself and argues that real salvation has nothing to do with church, but has to do with your personal relationship with Christ. Which is an argument that carries through a lot of religious doctrine of today, of Protestantism. That you're not predestined when you're born to go to heaven or hell, but it's the actions you take during your life that save or condemn you. That's her argument. Of course, where is she going to be sent? Rhode Island, to the sewer, exactly. Later in life, she is killed in an Indian attack with her entire family, and John Winthrop, who we just read, said of course she was killed. That was God doing what he's supposed to do to people that are dissenters. Yeah, John Winthrop's like, of course. God just did his job and took care of the business that he had to take care of. Yeah. Yes. Yes. So, we liked John Winthrop earlier. Maybe now, not so much. Maybe not so much. So, it's important that we understand that Roger Williams and Anne Hutchinson both proved to us that New England is not a place, Massachusetts specifically is not a place of religious freedom. So, here's our map. You guys up for a second. I'll do a question here. It shows us kind of how New England is spreading out. Plymouth, Mayflower Compact, 1620. Massachusetts Bay with the Puritans, 1630. And as people spread, so too does their territory. And who's that going to piss off? Native Americans. Native Americans. So here at Rhode Island, our sewer, Connecticut, New Haven, New Hampshire's going to be up here, eventually Maine. Yes, sir.
So what states are there now? Like how they set up?
Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Maine.
Hey, what about Long Island? Like,
What about Long Island?
what is that?
It's an island. It's pretty long. I told you everything that Push is a main part, but Long Island's a part of New York. It's an extension of the state of New York. So they have 5. Eventually, New Haven becomes part of Connecticut. Rhode Island stays Rhode Island. Plymouth becomes part of Massachusetts. It's called Cape Cod now. And then New Hampshire becomes New Hampshire, and Maine becomes Maine. But Maine won't become Maine until the Missouri Compromise in 1820, and we'll get to that in the middle of period 4. So it's important that we understand that as more people come, that's good for their society. Who's it bad for? Yeah, bad for the natives. Good. Good, good. So, turn the page for me. There's 2 Native American conflicts you're going to have to know from New England. On Thursday of last week, we talked about the Powhatan Wars in Virginia. In New England, the natives are much weaker. More of them die from disease. About 3/4 of the natives in New England are going to die from disease in the first 50 years that colonists are there. But there is one tribe, the Wampanoags. Say that, Brett. The Wampanoags, who at the very beginning are going to befriend the settlers. So here, the settlers here in Plymouth, the Wampanoags are going to befriend them, much like Jamestown. At the beginning, they got along. And then when more white people came, they were like, whoa, never mind. This is not the way we thought this was going to go. The cooperation is helped by Squanto. And this, of course, they sign a treaty. They're all best friends. And this is where the first Thanksgiving comes from.
Oh, I saw it in Turkey.
You saw that in the Turkey movie? Cool. Excellent. Don't really care. Now, more importantly, this shows a continuing trend that at the beginning, when white settlement starts, the natives are like, we can make an agreement, we can be friends, we can coexist. But you can only coexist as long as both groups are small and friendly. Once the white people continue coming, white population spreads out, the coexistence ends. First Thanksgiving. It's a real thing. Now, the first example, much like what happened in Jamestown, 10, 15 years in, the natives are like, screw this is not going the way we want it to go, let's attack. The Pequot are a very, very powerful tribe here in the Connecticut River Valley. 1637, we have the Pequot War. White people with another Indian tribe create a little ally friendship, and they attack the Pequots. Like I told you on Wednesday of last week, like it's not so easy to say just white people against Indians. There's so many different tribes that are also at war that it's a very complex system. White settlers and the Narragansett tribe attack the Pequots, who are a very powerful tribe. White people just set fire to their homes. They shoot the fleeing survivors. It's not cool. The Pequot tribe is virtually annihilated. They're almost dead as an entire tribe from one war. And so they sign a really hesitant peace that lasts for 40 years. But in those 40 years, who gets stronger? Yeah, the white settlers. Because all those thousands of people are coming from England, while the native tribes are getting weaker and weaker because of disease. So in that 40 years, it's pretty peaceful in New England after the Pequot Wars. 40 years later, that changes with King Philip's War. King Philip is his white name. Metacomet is his street name. His Native American name, which is almost exactly 40 years later, 38 years. So King Philip, or Metacomet, his native tribe, is arguing that the only way we're going to be able to survive as a people is to come together to resist white encroachment. I'm going to give you a phrase now that I'm going to use a lot this year. Hector will nod in agreement. An enemy of my enemy is my friend. An enemy of my enemy is my friend. So, I don't really know Dr. Thompson that well.
Nah.
I do. This is a lie. I don't know Dr. Thompson that well. She doesn't know me that well. But both of us really hate Hilda.
Commonality.
Seriously. So, we can both come together, we don't got much in common, but we both have a common enemy. So now all of a sudden, we're friends. It's like in Fortnite, except never say that word in my class again. Yeah. So, moral of the story is natives can say to each other, look, I don't like you, you don't like me, but if we don't come together, then we're both going to get overrun by white people. An enemy of my enemy becomes my friend. The same thing will hold true with the U.S. in World War II with Russia. It's going to come true with a lot of things. Moral of the story here is, that's Medicomet's argument, is yes, we may have had our differences as tribes, but until we come together, we're all going to just perish separately. And for the record, Hilda, I love you. You know that. Now, Medicom, here he is. He's got this badass nose ring. Get on his level. They coordinate a series of staged attacks on white settlers in New England. It's quite impressive. The frontier settlements, the people that are settled out on the outskirts of society. I'll talk a lot about the frontier on Thursday, this idea of the frontier. It's going to be a theme in our class the entire year. These frontier settlers have to retreat back into Boston because they've been savaged so badly. All of the black circles are where there are attacks. So as you can see, it is quite extensive. The Native Americans come together, they attack, it goes very well, and then it ends in failure. Because even together, the Native American tribes are too weak to make that big of an impact on what has now become a very, very large white settlement. As a result of what he does, Medicomet is beheaded. Yep, he loses his head. His son and his wife are sold into slavery.
Wow.
And the Native Americans, this is the key, are never again a serious threat in New England. Native Americans, because of disease and this last gasp effort, are never again a threat of any kind in New England.
So that war really was their
That war really was their. And we'll talk in this class about a variety of last Native American stands. This is one of them. Well, this is their last chance in New England, and it fails. What about Pocahontas?
She basically stopped the war.
You watch too many cartoons, my boy.
No, I'm saying.
How did that work out for the Native Americans?
I mean, there was peace for some time, and then after, back to
There we go.
but for some time.
Did you get that from a documentary source, or did you get that from watching Pocahontas? She also like did some magic leaves and like jumped off.
No,
No. So do me a favor. Do me a favor and cross out that text. The Edward Root Randolph, the causes and results of King Philip's War. Don't worry about it. The whole thing. Okay. Because the moral of the story is that it's going to look just like what happened in Jamestown. They attacked us, so now we're going to take that as permission to spread out as much as we want. Same general trend. So take a look, please. Take 30 seconds with your partner. Take a look at the graph and identify what story this graph is trying to tell. 30 seconds, go.
Slavery is still not popular. Just like a 1730s.
Yeah.
But still not as
All right. So let me get you guys back up here. Talk to me, Araceli. What story does this graph tell us about colonization in North America? British colonization.
In theory, see the white man, the population going up, and then the American decreasing.
Yeah, right? So at the very beginning, we see white population struggle. And then once we get into the 1630s, with the Great Migration, with the Puritans, as well as success in Jamestown and the Carolinas with plantations, we see population skyrocket at the expense of Native Americans. It also tells us a story that slavery, although present, does not play a significant role in the population until later. All right, that's after 1750. So slavery is going to take a little longer to develop, but it's pretty clear to see that Native Americans died very quickly. The first 25, 30 years of their presence, of white presence, from, like we said, disease and conflict. Now, middle colonies, at the very bottom of that text, you can see there's a question there at the bottom of the text. I know, I'm sorry. The middle colonies, you got to know a couple things, but they're kind of a hodgepodge of everything, for the most part. The things you should know are shipping/commerce and breadbasket. Breadbasket. Bread. First period was like red basket? No, bread. Bread? Bread? No, bread. Like bread. Wheat bread, white bread, sourdough bread. What? So, what are they growing in the South? Tobacco. Can you eat tobacco? I mean, you could. Should you? No. They're growing tobacco. You don't eat tobacco. They're eating sugar. You can't live off sugar. Teenagers try. They're growing indigo. You can't eat indigo. So, and they're all cash cropping. In the middle colonies, they're going to be growing the stuff people eat. They're going to feed the rest of the colonies. Wheat, corn, pigs, Hershey's chocolate in Pennsylvania, sure. There is some cocoa being grown. We're going to see sheep, wheat, like I said, a lot of fishing, cattle. So in the middle colonies, specifically Pennsylvania and inland New York, there's going to be a lot of the farming that's going to feed the rest of the colonies. That's what I mean by breadbasket. They're the feeder regions of the country.
I have a question.
Yeah.
They had like turkeys and like all that stuff.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, man. I got turkeys and all that stuff. There's still, to this day, in this part of the world, there's still a lot of wild turkeys.
Oh.
Yeah. So, in the middle colonies, we see shipbuilding, smaller scale farming, and a lot of trade. The two most important cities in early American history are both in the middle colonies, New York City and Philadelphia. And that's where a ton of the shipping in and out of the colonies is going to come. Which means those cities are going to be the most like Europe. Because they're the ones that are going to get the European goods. And with European goods, European ideas, European fashion, European architecture. Those are the cities that most resemble Europe. New York and Philadelphia as seaports and commercial centers. Wheat and corn. So those are, in general, those are our middle colony characteristics. Now New York originally is a Dutch colony. It's called New Amsterdam. The British get it as part of the Anglo-Dutch Wars. New York has quite limited slavery, but some is present. And it's important that we understand that New York, because of its location, is really just prime for shipping in and out. Great harbor, right on the coast, good for shipping and trade. Now the one that's a little more unique for today's purposes, and that's where we're going to end, is Pennsylvania. It's founded in 1682, so a good 60 years after Plymouth, 50 years after Massachusetts Bay. And it's actually formed because of what New England is doing. Is New England loose or strict on religion? Very strict, right? You got to do it our way, you got to do it this way, you got to do it that way. Very strict on religious practices. And William Penn, hence Pennsylvania, creates Pennsylvania first as a haven, a safe place for Quakers. Anybody ever had oatmeal? Yeah, that's that. The Quakers, exactly. Seriously. Their entire economy is going to be based on farming, wheat and oats for the oatmeal. See that? And trade from the Philadelphia port. And they're going to create a really, really unique place that's going to be called Penn's Holy Experiment. They're going to try really hard to create a place that's religiously diverse, culturally diverse, and also very, very tolerant of other ideas and Native Americans. Eastern California?
Yeah.
What do you mean by Eastern?
It's like it's California, but on the east.
I get what you're saying. Yeah, very much like a California would be today. Very peaceful Indian relations early. A lot of English people, but also Germans and Scots Irish, and they're going to be very tolerant of some of those quirky sects, S-E-C-T-S, of Christianity. To this day, the Amish are still successful in Pennsylvania. Anybody heard of the Amish? Yeah. They have no electricity, they have horse and buggy, they're wild, they're still there. So it's all these quirky, different parts of Christianity that we're going to see be very successful in Pennsylvania because of tolerance. So these Quakers had been persecuted in New England because of their beliefs. And William Penn attempts to create this idea of a holy experiment, a society that's run on Quaker principles because they've been persecuted somewhere else. They come, they promote religious tolerance, protection for the rights of people without property, which is going to be very attractive to poor people in Europe because they know that they're going to be respected there. So that's why we're going to have a lot of immigration to Pennsylvania, because they know that their society is built on tolerance for the English, the Welsh, the Irish, the Germans as well. So you're going to read this last piece of text for today. And I know today's kind of a text-heavy day, but it's good for you. You're going to read this last text from Richard Townsend. And we're going to leave off with this text because it's actually going to leave a better taste in our mouths. And it's going to be very different from the other perspectives you've seen on Native American treatment. You have 3 questions on the side. I'm going to give you 7 minutes to read it, discuss it, and respond to the questions. And then we're going to work on some thesis writing at the end of class, and we're going to call it a day on colonial regions. So 7 minutes, get reading. It's your last text of the day, and then we'll go from there. Yes, you better hurry. Time's ticking. On your own.
Yeah.
Passing back your summer homework, my suggestion for you is to keep everything. So it'll be 7 guys for you. Is it about 2:30 or so left? Your last text, read it well. What's different about Pennsylvania? Why does that matter? No, wait. It's being used with all the. Then this was the movie that yes. Movies.
Look at all the fakes.
All right, 30 seconds. Wrap up your reading, please. Give everybody else a chance to read. All right, so take a minute, please, with your partner and identify what's different about Pennsylvania and why. Why is their society different? What are they doing that's different? What sets them apart, makes them unique? 1 minute, go.
They don't want to like push forward their followed by it. They're not like really trying to pick an argument. They're really like just, I guess, making a bond with them. What's different about Pennsylvania?
Pennsylvania is different because they actually have religious tolerism, or like really hardly separate they tolerant from the diverse number of religions, so different. They treat the natives humanely, so the natives have no reason to attack or
Why y'all laughing?
3, 2, and why are you just stay up? Well, adjust yourself away to sit down. So, let me hear from. I got you at the end. Desi, what's different about Pennsylvania?
They seem to be more humble and reasonable about it.
More
Humble?
humble?
They're humble.
I dig that. And what else?
They seem to be more not trying to say like the other ones were being more like extra about it, but they seem to be like more generous. What's their word?
Yeah. How do they treat the natives?
With respect.
With respect, like humans. With dignity. Yeah, what a concept. And then because they treat them with dignity, they get along. Huh. It's wild. They don't even fight no wars. They pay them for their land. It's the only place in America where we see their land being purchased in colonization. Yeah.
So what they do?
They trade.
Wait, they know how to use money?
What? Let me ask you something. Do you know how to use money? What's a dollar worth? Dollar is not worth a dollar. 100 cents? No, it's not. A dollar is worth what you can get for it. So anybody knows how to use money. It's an exchange of goods. So, yeah, 100 cents. Everyone knows that. Let's move back to like the 3rd grade, the little worksheets with like the 100 pennies or the 10 dimes or the 4 quarters. Dollars worth you can get for it. So, but why? Why is this group more tolerant than the other groups? We hear from Kelly. What do you think? So yeah, we differentiated what they do that's different, but why? Oh. But everybody wants to use the land. Why? What makes this group the tolerant one? Go ahead, Brett. Take a shot at
This
it.
group were the Quakers, and they were persecuted back home. So, like you said, your motivations for going somewhere determines what you do when you get there.
So because they've been persecuted in the colonies, they decided to set up a society that wasn't based on persecution? Mission accomplished. So because of what it was they tried to found their colony on, and the fact that respect starts at the top, William Penn, the guy in charge, was very respectful of natives. So this guy straight up writes it. It's right there. William Penn treated the Indians with extraordinary humanity, and they became very civil among us and brought in abundance of venison. As in other countries, the Indians were exasperated by hard treatment, which had been the foundation of much bloodshed. So the different treatment, the contrary treatment here, produced their love and affection. If a group of people has always been treated with no respect and you respect them, all of a sudden your relationship's a different story. That's true in 2018. That's true in 1918. That's true in 1818. So because of their own shared experience and what they went there to do, they created a much happier, healthier type of place to live. Big picture as I wrap up our colonial regions. These are our biggest cities here in 1700, our biggest cities in 1750, and by 1775, at the outset of the American Revolution, our 4 biggest cities are Philadelphia, Middle Colonies, huge city. New York, Middle Colonies, big city. Boston, New England, big city. And Charleston. I talked about Charleston on Thursday. Where's Charleston? South Carolina. Good. South Carolina, what's the big thing they're importing? Slaves. But it's important that this tells us a demographic story as well. Where are most of the people living in America? In the middle and northern colonies.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Can't really tell the color between New York and Philadelphia, but which one is what?
Philadelphia, New York is red, Boston is blue, Charleston.
No, just New York and Philadelphia.
New York is red, Philadelphia is green. So this is Philadelphia, this is New York.
New York was
Nope, Philadelphia is a bigger city for now. New York will catch up later. So it's important we get our heads around the fact that because New England has more towns and more communities and more people, that's going to create more infrastructure, more togetherness. And as you can see, even the biggest city in the south is still way smaller than the big cities in the north. Because everybody's spread out. A rural population. Some general conclusions. All of the colonies, wherever they were, faced an early struggle. It wasn't easy for anybody because you're starting from scratch. And my big picture that I want you to walk away with is that there are very distinct regional differences. The South has their characteristics. The Middle Colonies have their characteristics. The New England Colonies have their characteristics. There's very distinct regional differences, and those are only going to increase. The South's going to become more Southern. New England's going to become more New England. The Middle Colonies become more middle, more trade, more business, more commerce. The South, more cash crops, more slavery, more money. New England, more religion, more education, more families. You can make an argument that these regional differences are still true today. The South, less diverse, less educated in general than the rest of the country. New England, more diverse, more educated than the rest of the country. It's true, because why you go somewhere in the first place impacts for generations what happens there. These people do not think of themselves as American by any stretch. They think of themselves as, I'm a Virginian, I'm a South Carolinian, I'm a New Englander, I'm a New Yorker, I'm a Pennsylvanian. There's no Wyoming yet.
I'm a Wyoming.
I'm a Wyominger. They don't really start to see themselves as American until the American Revolution. Good. So take the last 5 of class, please, on the back, and respond to that prompt. What are these similarities and differences in the colonial regions? While I collect your homework and pass out your homework that's due on Thursday. Yeah, you got it. You're writing a response while you do this. Respond.